Hey, everybody. Again, welcome to Park Right Here. This is Tom Cosentino, your host. Unfortunately, Katrina is having one of those Parkinson's days, so please think of her. She's doing well, but it's just one of those days where she's just not able to join us. So today we have what I think is a really great conversation. A while back, somebody said to me, "You should write a book." And I'm like, "I'm not going to write a book." But then I started thinking of everybody with Parkinson's who've written a book, whether with Parkinson's or supporting Parkinson's as a caregiver. So I just thought it would be a great idea to listen to these people so they can tell you their life stories
It's
and
12
understand.
o'clock.
I'm sorry, that was a weird sound that just came through. And yet, all these books, by the way, all these authors are available on Amazon.com if you're looking for anything. So what I want to do is just take a quick minute to introduce everybody and have them say hi, and then we'll go around the table and they'll kind of give us an idea of what their book is all about. So I'm just going to start in my corner and move to my right. So George, you're the first one. You're up.
Thanks for your time. Please send our love to Katrina, but I appreciate what all of you do. It's an honor to meet fellow co-hosts here or individual who's on the call. My name is George Ackerman. I've been an advocate my whole life. I'm a police officer, a lawyer, have a PhD in criminal justice, fought my whole life before caregiving for victims' rights, individuals who lost their loved one due to crime. Unfortunately, my mother had Parkinson's for 15 years, and I fell into the world of caregiving the last 4 years of her life where Parkinson's progressed very quickly. I decided to, the last year of her life, we kept a journal of what it was like being a caregiver through her journey and battle with Parkinson's. And it's something that means the world to me. It's to make sure that my mother is never forgotten. It's called Son's Journey. And I lost my mother, unfortunately, in 1/1/2020 due to Parkinson. Could have been the vast changes in the medications, but I swore to myself that I never let her be forgotten, but more importantly, fight for those today battling Parkinson's and their loved ones to make sure that finally someday through awareness we can end this disease and really never have to deal with it again. So thanks again for your time, and I'm sending my love and support to everyone here on the call and everybody listening as well. Thank you.
Well said. So I'd like to now introduce Patty Burnett. And Patty, it's your turn.
I want to get those books, George. They sound really good for my daughters and my husband.
Thank you.
I've had Parkinson's 11 years, and previous to Parkinson's, I used to supervise the ski patrol at Copper Mountain, and I handled search and rescue and avalanche dogs, and I have a family with a husband who is a wonderful caregiver, care partner, and 2 daughters and 4 grandkids that I'm so proud of. I helped to lead a support group here in Summit County. The reason that I wrote my book was because a lot of stuff was going on, whether it was injuries or disease or whatever. In fact, the other day I was trying to count how many times I've been in the hospital. I just got out. I just had my shoulder operated on. So hopefully the doctor's not noticing that I don't have my sling on right now. But
Well, we haven't reached that audience yet, so I think you're okay.
Okay. And so anyway, where was I? I wrote the book because my mom and dad were both, they were going through really hard times. They were in their 90s, and dad was just about catatonic, and mom had some dementia, and it was really tough. And so I'd go and spend time with them and not know what to do because they wouldn't respond to me when I would talk to them. And so I thought, well, maybe I could come up with a book that a person could have either for themselves or for a loved one who's in the hospital, hospice, palliative care, whatever, that they'd have an opportunity to use this book to read to their parents or their loved one or themselves. That would give them encouragement. So hopefully we'll get a chance to share little excerpts of our books after we're all done with this. But thanks,
Well,
Tom.
thank you. All right. Hey, John, you're up.
Great, thanks. Hi, my name is John Alexander. I was diagnosed in 2010 and at age 58. And so I still consider myself young onset. At least they let me go in that group sometime. So I'm coming up on 15 years and doing pretty well with it all. A couple of things I discovered early on was that exercise is good. And so I took up cycling. Nothing nearly as tremendous as some of these folks do on our behalf, but I've had a great time with it. And to that effect, I found a really tremendous group to help me become a better cyclist called Cycling Savvy, which is now making its way around the country, teaching people, whether they're novice or professionals, to ride whenever, wherever they want. And I thought, well, as I started riding after the class, I should keep track of how many miles I do, and it started adding up pretty quickly. So in the first year, I rode 1,000 miles on my bike, and I'm not would normally be considered a huge athlete, but if you do that few every day, I think I actually calculated that for that year, I did a total of 100 rides, which is like 10 miles a ride. So you can do it. So that brought up my book, which is called "The Journey Begins with 1,000 Miles."
Mm.
Thriving with Parkinson through hope, optimism, perseverance. And
I like that.
I was writing some articles as I was working with a cycling group, some things we've done, certain rides, just fun rides or more strenuous rides, and put them into a blog fashion. And I kept saying I should do a book. Never quite got around to it, but I reached a point where in 2015 I became one of the first of the 9
Hey,
ambassadors.
so I'm going to try putting you on
They did the
speaker and
Cine
see if you
Foundation.
can hear, and then we can hear you.
And it's been a wonderful opportunity for
work?
me. And then in 2016, I went to the World Parkinson Congress in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
They had an area called the Book Nook. And so some of the people have become my heroes.
Well, let's do this. I'll put you
exhibiting there.
last, and then if
There
you
was
want,
Little, who
if
was
you
a
can't get set up
fabulous
between now and
cyclist.
then,
And,
I'll give you.
I had
you can give me a
participated in an
call.
event called Ride with Larry. If you've not heard of it, you should rent that movie. It's truly inspirational.
Mm.
But in 2016, I had deep brain stimulation surgery, and for me that worked extremely well. Took care of my tremor and some dystonia and some rigidity, and it's allowed me to continue a very full and active life. So at that point, I said I should finally do this book. I discovered a book coach. Her name is Amy Collette. Her husband is Tom Casey, and Tom was a high school classmate of Davis Finney's.
Mm.
And Tom and his group did a ride from San Diego to New York City, raise money for the foundation. And so Amy helped me create a plan, and it's my responsibility to stick with it. And from pen to print was 6 months. I had the book out. It's on Kindle, in print, and it's been a lot of fun to have going on. So glad to talk to people about and answer questions about using a book coach, what that can benefit you. Here's my basics.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Greg. You're up.
My name is Greg Richer. My Parkinson's demographics are I was 55 years old in 2011 when I was diagnosed and had DBS surgery last year. Had bilateral surgery with the STN as the target. And as I think John and I know Patty would concur with me, it's one of the best things I've ever done as far as helping me with my Parkinson's. I think it'll give me another 7 to 10 years of effective life. I wrote a book, came out in the spring of 2020 because I had nothing better to do because of COVID. No, just kidding. I wrote the book when I was a warlord of commerce. I was a person who worked in the landscape industry, and I helped people put together strategic business plans and then develop those plans and grow the business and sell it and so forth. But my book is called Rising Above Parkinson's, Taking on Life's Greatest Challenges and Learning to Thrive. Way too much of what people with Parkinson's talks about are negative things I can't do. I take the exact opposite approach. What's something new that I can do that I never used to do before that now I can do once I have Parkinson's? So I speak publicly quite a bit. I was just in Pensacola yesterday, and I'll be in Tallahassee tomorrow. I live in Florida, and happy to talk with anybody about whatever they would like as it relates to a positive approach to Parkinson's.
Greg, where are you based?
Because of my background as a strategic planner, I'm a huge fan of setting goals and visions. So the vision statement of my life right now is to make Parkinson's wish it had never met me.
I like that. Well said. So
Thank
now I
you.
want
Where are
to
you
quickly
based?
jump on with Joe O'Connor, because Joe is probably the most prolific publisher we have in this group today. How many books now, Joe? 10?
No. 4.
Four.
I write poetry. I just actually came off the Davis Finney poetry group meeting, which Tom actually attended for a while with us, which is a whole lot of fun. The way I look at it is very similar to what I was hearing the tail end of what you were saying, Greg, which is I look for things that I can do. I never ever wrote poetry until after I was diagnosed. And now it just seems like something that, I mean, I go to open mics and I love it. One of my favorite things I ever experienced at open mics is when I get off the stage and somebody says, "Who wrote that poem?" And I go, "I didn't." They go, "Oh my God."
I wrote that poem. Yeah.
I mean, it's a really, really satisfying feeling. And I think I'm especially fortunate because the part of my brain that's been affected is my left side, which I use way too much most of my life. And now I'm able to use my right side of my brain, and I almost have to. So I tend to do things that are creative. I had I answered an ad they were looking for what I thought was people who wanted to be trained in how to paint. And I said, "Oh, this is kind of cool." It turned out that they were basically making an exhibition that is out on the internet permanently that features the works of myself, Jan Grimes, who's also an ambassador. And Jan is also a composing musician, although she's done that all her life. But it can, I mean, I think if you look at the opportunities to do things, they're still there. And then there is the other opportunity too, to enrich yourself by looking at things that you just never would have thought of before. I think Parkinson's kind of forces you into that because you can't do some of the things you used to do before. I mean, I used to run marathons like most people run 5Ks, you know. So anyway.
Well, that's great. I just want to plug one book for somebody who couldn't make it. This is my favorite physical therapist author. It's called Parkinson's Symptoms Through Exercise by Christine Muldrum. This is for those who need. Should be on everyone's book table at night. This is everything you need to know about exercise and Parkinson's in this book. Just a great book. And then George, I know you didn't plug your book, but this is George's book. I did check the inside cover, but it's not signed, but that's okay.
That means we have to meet. We'll have to meet for real.
I think I'm just going to forge his signature so I can tell people I have a copy of George's book. But, I thought it'd be good if, and Patty brought it up, if they can read an excerpt. Patty, would you like to read something from your book?
Yeah, I meant to mention my book.
Yeah, mention your book. Get it up there so we can see it.
Can you guys see that? Chronic Hope? Wait, this way, right?
Yeah, perfect.
And it is God's redeeming presence in the midst of pain. And so I'm going to read this little bit, if I can find it. And this chapter is called Even If He Doesn't. Every human being has dreams and hopes for the future, i.e. to marry that wonderful guy, to become a millionaire by a certain age, to find the profession that absolutely fits their passions, to live in a beautiful home with 1.94 perfectly well-behaved children, and the list goes on and on. One thing on my bucket list was to do the Haute route. When you do this amazing route in its entirety, you ski the Alps from Chamonix, France to Zermatt, Switzerland. Dan and I had intended to ski the Haute Route when we were first married. However, I injured my leg and had to cancel. Some consider it the most famous and coveted ski route in the world. Participants use alpine touring gear with skins in order to stay at a higher elevation on the Alps, spending nights including breakfasts and dinners in rugged huts. It's very difficult, and about half of those who begin the route never complete it. Such was the case for Dan and me. I didn't want Parkinson's to rule my life, and I certainly did not want it to crush all our dreams and hopes for the future. We figured that if we didn't begin working on our bucket list, it wasn't going to happen. With 3 of our best friends, we meticulously planned every detail, down to the ounces of weight we were willing to carry in our backpacks.
Wow.
Too heavy a pack could end a trip in no time at all. Our first few days went well. I felt as though I could do this. The weather was great and the skiing was amazing. However, about halfway through the route, my Parkinson's started to misbehave. Unfortunately, that's the way it is with this strange disease. You can always predict the next or you cannot always predict the next bad day. Stiffness, rigidity were compounding my already poor adaptation to the cold temperatures. The straw that broke my back dropped as we crested the pass above Verbier. Over the course of that day, we'd been using ski crampons for the most dangerous terrain. And standing at the top of the steep, wind-scoured pass, I didn't believe I could go any further. My frozen fingers lacked the dexterity needed to remove ski crampons and reattach my bindings. And I knew that my slowness was holding the rest of our group back. If Dan and I were going to turn around, this was the perfect place. Our guide advised us that we could ski down to the top of the ski area where we could spend the night at a backcountry hut. Just so you know how God cared for us at that time when we were especially downtrodden, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. As we entered the hut, we were greeted by an angel. Turns out he was the only English-speaking person there at that time. He welcomed us and listened to our story. He patiently told us where we could stay down in town the next night if we wanted. And then he very explicitly detailed the best route back to Chamonix, which involved trains, buses, and taxis. Trying to figure out transportation in Europe was quite a challenge for us. I was so grateful for our little angel. Dan and I skied at the ski area for 2 days on and off piste, and then traveled back to Chamonix to await our friend's completion of the Haute Route. During our wait, I was terribly ill with intestinal issues that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, that often accompany my Parkinson's symptoms. I cannot even imagine what it would have been like to use the hole-in-the-ground outhouses all the way to Zermatt. Disappointed? You bet. Seems like I've always been able to meet every challenge and wondered whether this new failure foretold future frustrations and sadnesses. I wondered where God was in all this. Did he feel my pain? Did he understand my fears and doubts? Did he really think that this fiery trial was necessary in my life? What was the lesson, the takeaway? Segueing from a glacier exploit into a thermal adventure, the book of Daniel may answer that question. I love Beth Moore's Bible study about the prophet Daniel. His Israeli friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were thrown into a furnace after they refused to bow down and worship the image of King Nebuchadnezzar. I guess in those days, incineration was a common form of execution. The 3 men were brought before the king, told that they would have one more chance to fall down and worship the king's image. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered King Nebuchadnezzar, "Your threat means nothing to us. If you throw us in the fire, the God we serve can rescue us from your roaring furnace and anything else that you might cook up, O king. But even if he doesn't, it wouldn't make a bit of difference, O king. We still would not serve your God or worship the gold statue you set up." Beth explains that in most situations of trouble and oppression, and in this case fire, there are 3 different ways that God can deliver us. I would like to relate these examples to Parkinson's. The first is delivery from the fire. Perhaps a person has all the risk factors for Parkinson's and even has relatives who are living with it. If that person does not get PD, they'll have been delivered from the fire. As a result, their faith will have been built stronger. On the other hand, God may choose to deliver us through the fire, as was the case for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. If the Lord heals a person, even after perhaps 9 years of living with Parkinson's, they'll have been delivered through the fire. And then the last method of deliverance is by the fire. And we get to meet our master and deliverer, and our faith is perfected. If our three friends had realized that they were going to die in the furnace, they still would have refused to worship the king. Certainly, death is a form of healing that our Lord sometimes selects for his children. No method of healing could surpass meeting our Savior, receiving a new body, and getting keys to our heavenly mansion. I love that when the king looked into the furnace, there were 4 men standing there, but only 3 had been thrown in. How like our Lord that he would come alongside Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to see them safely through the fire. Had I been one of those 3 men, I'm sure I would have begged Christ to carry me back to the Father's side. I can imagine the young Israelites' disappointment when the Lord explained that their work in Babylon was not yet completed. As they were escorted from the furnace, the king worshiped the God of Daniel and his 3 cohorts, and he advanced their careers. I hesitate to guess what my future will look like. Sometimes it scares me to go there. Last fall, I was mentoring a woman who was very depressed and anxious about what Parkinson's would do to her body over the next 20 to 30 years. I am too, but I'm learning that my deliverer is standing by my side in the fire. His presence in our pain is overwhelming, and I want to bring glory to him. Even as Daniel and his friends did, no matter how Christ Jesus chooses to deliver me.
Hey, Patty, thank you very much. I don't mean to cut in, but George is on a time schedule.
I'm done.
So, okay, great. By the way, that was wonderful. Thank you. George,
Thank you.
is there anything you want to throw in before you have to go?
Great. I just want to say it's an honor to meet everyone. Again, I always show this. This cover kind of sums up my book and my mother. She was a very happy person, very friendly. She didn't really want to burden our family and tell me much about Parkinson's. But for the about 7 years, she kind of didn't mention. I heard the word Parkinson. I didn't even know much more about it. But when I had to step up and take care of her, kind of changed all of our world. My book covers important areas like the first signs, symptoms, my caregiving, my support, which was my wife and kids, and also the family aftermath and the mission forward. But I kind of want to touch quickly here about how grateful I am to so many, like all of you. I wouldn't be able to really probably function myself anymore. My mother was my best friend, but because of all of you out there still fighting, the inspiring stories that I hear, even the other week, the gentleman who rowed around in the sailboat throughout the world to raise millions of dollars to find a cure and for awareness. Those are the things that really keep inspiring me. But this photo was actually taken at my wedding. It was one of my most favorite memories of my life. My mother was smiling. It was a 3-minute mother and son dance. She always loved and tortured me growing up with Barry Manilow, Michael Bolton, and Kenny G. And
Very well.
today they're actually my favorite artists. But those 3 minutes and that moment, something that Parkinson's disease could never take from us. It's a memory and a photo that will live on forever. And because of incredible people like all of you, now you know her story. But I just want to make sure you all know one last thing. This is a message I always say. Tom's heard it a few times, but this is from my family to yours and to everyone listening. Also, please share this and support Tom and Katrina. They're incredible friends of mine. They're like my family. But we love you all. We support you. We care a lot about you, and knowing you're never alone. I will advocate, along with Tom and Katrina, of course, but I'll advocate for you. And together, I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started, because just today, meeting the 3 or 4 of you, other co-writers, hearing your inspiring stories, kind of drives me to never give up and never stop fighting till we have a cure. And some nights, unfortunately, like last night, I don't sleep because I miss my mother. She, again, was my best friend, but I know that through everyone out there listening and supporting us, that she won't never be forgotten, and I'll never stop till we find a cure for Parkinson's. So thank you all. And also, all the money for my book goes directly to organizations like Michael J. Fox, Drive Toward a Cure, Power Over Parkinson's, American Parkinson's Disease Association, and Parkinson's Foundation. I'm not in this for money. Unfortunately, I can't bring my mother back, but like I said, together, I feel we can end this disease if we all, as a family, fight for awareness and hope for a cure. So thank you all. And I hope to get your books too. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you.
Hey, George, I got to look at this friendship because Barry Manilow.
I love it. He's still out there right now. Singing
I mean, I
right
used
now.
to have you up here, but now you just got knocked down a couple
Hey,
steps.
George, how old were you when your mom was diagnosed or when you found out about it?
I have every degree except for one in math, so I won't give you the. She was 69, so she had it for about 15 years. So I would, if you could do the math, I don't have a calculator, but I was younger. I mean, my midlife. But again, she didn't want to. She was the kind of person that she would say she didn't want to burden our family. I wish she did, but she sacrificed her whole life to raise me and my brother, and I was for sure not gonna not be there for her during her journey and her struggle. So, we tried everything in the book. It'll go through it. Some of it's tough. I always tell people like Tom to skip a chapter or two because I actually kept the journal the last year of her life and tells you literally time stamped and date of what I went through as her caregiver, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But unfortunately, there is a lot of positive and light that's come from the darkness. Meeting all of you today, meeting Tom, Katrina, and so many people out there. And last thing is, I was shocked to find out just 2 years ago that there's about, we have 1 million people in the US, but 10 million around the world. And that made me wake up and realize that it's not about just me and my mother anymore. It's about all of us and everyone. And I interviewed over 800 people throughout the world, from Iceland to Africa to England to France, Spain, and it's all on togetherforsharon.com, completely free. Hopefully I'll get to speak to all of you, but my goal is to get your journeys out there, to get your books sold, because it's not, again, just about me and my mother. It's about everyone. And I just feel strongly that more awareness together is really going to change the world. And if we just reach one person today that thinks they're alone, now they'll know they're not. So again, I'm grateful for your time.
Thank you. Can I just suggest that you add to your list of people that are receiving the Davis Finney Foundation, because
I
most
love
of your
Yeah.
ambassadors for Davis Finney.
I was going to send
Actually,
it separately.
I've been lucky enough to interview about 10 or 15 individuals from their amazing foundation, and they are somebody who I have a lot of admiration for, and we actually will definitely support all they do. And there's no one out there I wouldn't. That's the problem, is I want to help so many, but the one tip I do have for caregivers is you want to take care of your own health first. I've destroyed that, whether I was a caregiver or today as an advocate, because I feel that I don't have the time to spare. We need a cure. And if I have to sacrifice days where I feel like a truck drove over me, like today, it'll be my sacrifice I choose. But definitely the number one tip, if anything comes out of my book, is to take care of your own health as a caregiver, so that you can be a better help to your loved ones.
So just one thing before George drops off, I'm going to send an email to everybody asking for the name of your book and the title, and then I'll circulate it amongst the group of here. I think that'd be
Great. Thank you.
right now. Okay, George, again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time being here, and we'll talk about Barry Manilow later.
Yeah, I'll be sharing this so everyone also can hear it. But again, thank you all. Unfortunately, I'm a cop and lawyer, so I have no life, and I got to go back to the field. But thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
We haven't got to Carol yet, so I just want to hand it over to Carol so she can tell us about her book. And if you want to read anything out of it quickly, that would be fine.
Okay, so
Make sure we see the book.
this is the book, The Ribbon of Road Ahead. And this is a kind of a memoir from about 2 years before I was diagnosed with Parkinson's up until I had DBS, which was 8 years ago. And so it takes you through my life at that time. I didn't mean to write a book. I wasn't set out to do that at all. But people were talking about my Facebook posts and my blogs. And they said, you've got to publish this stuff. You've got to publish this stuff. And so finally I took a leap. I found somebody to help me edit, and away I went. So in the book, I travel across Spain and France on the Camino de Santiago, and I managed to get 1,000 miles in walking, not all in one trip, as my husband Charlie did. He took it all in one trip, but I broke it up a bit. And then I also rode on Ragbri 4 times, with Charlie on our tandem, which is quite an adventure. So this book kind of guides us through how I dealt with things, with trying to live a normal, exciting, adventuresome life. And I'd like to read this little part to you because it kind of is how I deal with humor and how I deal with difficult things that are happening. So this is the day of my DBS surgery. The clock on the wall ticked the minutes off slowly. My scheduled surgery time had passed over an hour before, and I was still waiting in the pre-op. Pre-op didn't provide much privacy, the patient areas being separated only by thin curtains that didn't even reach the floor. Eavesdropping on the other 3 patients as they went through their preparations helped me pass the time. They had been wheeled out one by one to their assigned surgical suites. It had been quiet for some time when the whisking sound of surgical slippers on the tile floor alerted me that someone was approaching. A gloved hand whipped the curtain aside, and a figure, completely gowned and masked, entered my tiny space. The figure paused at the end of my bed for a moment, staring at me. Then I heard, "What are we going to do with that hair?" It was a woman's voice speaking from behind the surgical mask. Perhaps she had been in earlier to introduce herself, but now I didn't recognize her voice or have any idea what she was asking me about my hair. "Excuse me, what did you say?" I said, "What about your hair?" "I'm here for a deep brain stimulation procedure. It's a treatment for my Parkinson's disease, not another haircut," I thought. "Isn't it short enough?" I took a poll on social media, and all my friends loved this style. I had known the incisions would affect my hairstyle, but how? I was not sure.
Awesome.
In preparation for this surgery, I had gradually shortened my hair from shoulder length to a bob, then to the current pixie style. I'd had fun along the way as I posted pictures of glamorous women with the hair I desired and allowed my friends to have input through voting. Diane, my hairdresser, had complied by cutting my hair to the likeness of the winning hairstyle. "If we leave it like this, when you get out of surgery, it's going to look like a 3-year-old took scissors to it while you were napping." "What do you suggest?" I asked. "Shave it off." "Shave it off now?" "Not now, when we put you under." "Who will do it? Dr. Butcher?" "Never," said the reply. "He's a brain surgeon. You don't want him cutting your hair. I'll do it myself." I had to give this some thought. "Come on, Carol," I muttered under my breath. "It's just her sense of humor. You promised yourself you would remain positive and lighthearted." Thanks," I said to the mystery nurse. The gloved hand parted the curtain behind her as she backed away, and she was gone, leaving me wondering, should I have asked her to wax my eyebrows? Anyway. So there's
So
go ahead.
I have a
That's
question for the
awesome.
group. So how do you start the process of writing a book? Do you just start talking and recording, or do you have an outline? There's a pro forma that you do. That's my biggest question to the group, because you're all, Greg, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'd never written a book before. I had written a number of articles and stuff like that, but all for industry purposes. I have a good friend who was an editor and helped me with my book quite a bit, and her major thought process was come up with a major theme and then have 3 sub themes that support the major theme, and then fill in the blanks with just what's happened in your life. Tell people your story.
I got to stop you for, here's my first tangent. I had a teacher in high school who taught me how to write papers, and that's exactly main theme, 3 supporting things, and then 3 supporting for the 3 supporting. So you build up. I just thought you brought me back to my high school days.
Yeah, well, that's what she told me. So that's how I tried it. I'm in the process of writing another book called Hope of Mine. A play on words of dopamine and hope. And it's all about things that I'm doing to help either myself or more importantly, other people, get a sense of hope, even though they live with a debilitating disease.
Great, thanks. Anyone else want to?
Sure.
Yeah. Joe?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll just read you a quick little poem. This is one of the first poems I wrote after I had Parkinson's. It's called Last. It's from my first book. Standing in the dark, shuffling in the paddock. Off we go. Round the corner. Feel there, but not there. Over the river into Kentucky. Each stride brings me closer to the last. Did I know it? Of course not. They all pass me. I just can't keep up. I am drawing back like a sinkhole is dragging me back. I am being pulled out. Anyway, back over the bridge and now the hills. Each hill seems to pull me back. Not gravity, but black. Back and out. Each climb pulls a little out of me. Each downhill shows my leg weakness. I am completely last so many times. I don't even know why then, not then. Then there is the broom bus, arguing, falling, too slow, too slow. People are long gone. Finally the line, no tape. Just a line over to the med tent. This isn't me anymore. This is no accomplishment. Why can't I run? I'm being pulled out of the group, pulled back to watch. That was it. That was the last.
That's
Cool.
really good. Joe, you know, as I've been watching the Olympics, I
Yeah.
watch some of these runners and swimmers and equestrians, and I think, wow, can you imagine moving your arms or your legs that fast? Even before, you know, you had Parkinson's, but especially now.
Mhm.
And I think what a gift, you know, to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I
What?
also think that us slowing down maybe is giving us opportunities to learn different life lessons that we wouldn't learn otherwise.
Well, I
Yeah,
know
I'm
that
looking
I had
at-
planned to try and do the 50 states. I was in the process of doing the 50 states, and instead I've done, right now at this count, 73 clinical trials. So, I mean, I found a different way to do it, if that's what you're talking about, Patty.
Mhm.
Um,
You know, I like what you said, because one of the things I like about this podcast is we can bring people together and broadcast it, hopefully to tens and 20s and 30s and hundreds of people, to get the message out on a broader level.
mhm.
And personally, I want to say is I never felt like I was a wordsmith, but the way you guys craft your sentences, your paragraphs, the poem, it's truly amazing. I wish I had the ability to think like that.
You might. You just got to tap into it, I think.
Yeah.
Let me.
But Tom, you have the ability to do this, you know, to lead a podcast. And, you know, I would never think of doing that. So
Oh.
you're
Yes.
just in a different place, maybe.
Yeah, so this is funny. This is easy for me. I mean, I remember telling a story about when I was in kindergarten. I ran home and told my mom I went all day without talking. It was like 4 hours, and I think that was the last time I ever went 4 hours while awake that I haven't talked. You know, it's just by nature I'm a talker, and it really, my own personal devil is a sense. If I'm in a group like this and nobody's talking, I got to talk. I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, will somebody start a conversation? And if they don't, I cannot sit still without saying something. And then I just jump in. But I've always been a talker.
Sounds like my husband. So this is the first book I wrote, and it's called Avalanche at Hasty Search, and it's how to train and care for an avalanche dog. And then it gives a lot of stories about avalanche dogs. And you might find it interesting if you like dogs, if you like stories about missions and adventures. But the way I started writing this thing, Chronic Hope, is I would start writing down stories that people would tell me, poems, lyrics, verses, Bible verses. And then I thought with each one of the chapters, I would write just a short excerpt, not much. But it took 3 years, and I did all the editing, most of the editing myself. So Takes a long time.
Patty, this is one of the reasons I like you. I love dog. That's me, and if you can see it, I'm in the
Yeah.
burlap suit with the dog on my arm. I did that
Well,
in the Army. I worked with attack dogs.
I'm impressed. You know,
Yeah, it's like,
I learned from a woman named Sandy Bryson, who was a sheriff's officer in Tahoe, and she was an amazing search dog handler, and she was my hero, my mentor. But she had a police dog, and she didn't just train it for protection. She also did friendly search with it. And if you were practicing with that dog and he had just been on a felon type, a bad guys type of search, if you weren't careful, if you didn't put your hands in the right exact place, you had to be really careful because
oh yeah,
otherwise this dog could.
I have a
But,
little. I
when
got
she
bit in
was
the lip.
when the dog was charging, she could stop it midstream, which was so impressive to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
If I could, I wouldn't mind reading. I too, just like Joe, I never used to write poems. I was a warlord of commerce. I was way too interested in winning every bid and killing everybody and victory at all costs, all the
Yeah.
classic capitalistic things you can think of. And only with Parkinson's did I realize that, I'll tell you the very quick story is on the 1 year anniversary, April 26, 2012, of my Parkinson's diagnosis, I sent an email, and I've done this every year since, to my children, my wife, my friends, my business acquaintances, and said, "What have you noticed that's changed in the last year?" Because what I don't want to be is the frog in the pot
Oh yeah.
that you start on, warm it up, simmer it. The frog says, "What smells so good for dinner?" And it turns out it's him. So I started writing poems when I couldn't sleep. One of the symptoms I have with Parkinson's is RBD, or REM, behavior disorder. So I don't get into REM sleep that often. I don't stay there. I have night terrors. Not people say, "Oh, I have nightmares." I wish I had nightmares. I have night terrors. I mean, literally so bad, the episodes, so that you don't want to go back to sleep. Because if you go back to sleep, you're just going to hop right back into this terror. And if you stay awake, you win.
Mm-hmm.
The terror can't do it. So let me read this. This is a brief excerpt, and then I'll tell you the poem. Won't take but a minute. I hope my poem helps you understand how I deal with the drudgery of living with Parkinson's every waking moment of every day. In this poem, hopefully it can shed some light on dealing with your atomic event, and I call having Parkinson's, or losing a loved one, a spouse, a child, an atomic event, something you have no control over, yet it has devastating impacts in your life. It says, if my words in this poem help bring back a brighter fashion of life for you, well, then my words are fulfilled. And here is the poem. It's called "God's Grace is Enough." I knew it before I heard it. Always trust your gut instinct. You have Parkinson's. That's what the doctor told me. Tell me something I don't know. Parkinson's starts in the same place, the gut. Lewy bodies misfolding, axioms aflame, dendrites adrift, words you never want to hear. You know, an atomic event. The rest of your life is blown up. Normal, in quotes, is not normal anymore. Your life will never be the same. There's no known cause, no known cure. But perseverance builds hope, but only through character. What will the new normal be? God's plan, not mine. Fear. Future expectations appear real. A loving wife, children, and friends with prayers. I was happy being a warlord of commerce. I didn't know I could be loved so much. The thrill of the kill, the taste of blood. I learned the lesson that my life is not about me. Unwanted tremors shake my digits. Shaken, not stirred, reaches other people's hearts. Now thoughts disappear in mid-sentence. Will I be able to live what I used to preach? Emotion ignited. Tears at the drop of a word. Disease ambassador set free. Night terrors. The tiger man is loose. Oh, the peace that passes all understanding. Fatigue. I'm too tired to sleep. More on than off. Drugs 3 times a day just to mask the pain. Why do I even pay? Quiet voice. What did you say? Kinder, gentler words sing from my mouth. Swallowing, choking, drooling. God's grace. Oh, what a powerful force. Gone are basketball teams and tying flies and fly fishing. But here is a view from the top of a 14,000-foot mountain. Priceless. My life isn't falling apart. It's falling into place. My life is upended, evidently, just as God intended for me.
Good.
Beautiful.
Little golf clap.
I just want to show this T-shirt.
Can't see it.
It's too dark. We won.
You won?
We won.
What did we win? I know what we won, but I want to see the rest of the shirt.
The National Act.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
The plan.
The plan.
Now we
Nice.
need to come up with the committee. And
Exactly.
the path. We still got a ways to go on that, but that's certainly better than anybody's been doing for 200 and some odd years.
And I looked it up. There have been only about a dozen or so bills that have passed through the Senate unanimously. That includes us. And last year, there were only 2 bills that passed through the House of Representatives, and that includes us.
Wow.
People are finally getting the message.
Mhm.
It's cheaper to fix us than to just keep us.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
Greg, your part about the frog in the water, I can completely understand because, you know, we see ourselves change. We see ourselves every moment of the day, and change is minute, and we don't see the change. My wife went with me to the last physical therapy appointment, or I mean, neurologist appointment, and she was mentioning that parts about how I'm acting out when I sleep. And neurologist, who I love, by the way, looks at me and goes, "Is that true?" I said, "I don't know. I'm sleeping." It was just.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Just the other night, my grandson in my dream kicked a field goal in an NFL football game.
Mm.
I jumped out of bed on the side of my bed and I went, "It's good. It's
Oh, that's
good."
funny.
Did
My
you hurt
wife's like,
yourself?
"Wake up, goofball.
Did
Go
you
to
hurt
sleep."
yourself?
Huh?
Did you hurt yourself?
Oh no, not at all. But I literally hopped out of bed to say it's good, and
You
do
know,
the
about 2 weeks after my final DBS, where they hook up everything, I had a REM disorder thing, and I fell out of bed, and suddenly well, I don't know if I fell or I walked out of bed, but anyway, suddenly the floor felt like it was, pulled out from underneath me, and my head went down and hit the base of my bed, which is this big log, and right there. So I had just fortunately had an appointment with my doctor, my neurosurgeon, the next day, and I said, I'm a little scared about this whole thing, that I might undone everything that you did. And he said, nope, you're going to have to do more than that to undo what I did. It was really a scary thing. I told Danny he had to monitor my vitals all night long and, did all the good EMT stuff.
Well, what I've tried to do is when I have these night terrors, and those of you with Parkinson's know what I'm talking about. They're not just nightmares where something goes wrong. It's blood and guts in color. I dream in color and all that kind of fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned to do is make a negative a positive. And that's what I talk about a lot in my book is that, look, if you're going to stay awake, if you're going to get up out of bed and go downstairs and sit in a chair and not go to sleep because you don't want the Tiger Man killing any more people in your dream, in your terror, then I write my grandchildren notes. I write them cards all the time. I've got a 15-year-old grandson, the oldest, and he started dating. So I recently wrote him a card about, why did the Greeks have 4 different types of meaning to the word love? And how should we live our lives that way? And that limerence, when you are goo gaga in love with someone, that's not going to last very long. But if you want to, put in the effort, and I told him that, in my opinion, the key to marriage is you have to be able to forgive what you cannot forget. Really stupid stuff that you've done that you
I knew my wife less than 10 months when I said I do. Just under 10 months. And we're coming up on our 35th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is every anniversary, I always bring her coffee in the morning anyways, because I get up before she does. I'll bring her coffee, her flower, her card, give her a little kiss on the forehead and say, happy anniversary. I haven't changed.
I love the coffee part of it because my friend, a good friend of mine got a divorce, and she told me it's because her husband didn't bring her coffee.
I bring her coffee every morning.
And so Jan brings me coffee every day. But Carol, that pilgrimage that you made, where was it from? Santiago? Where was it?
It goes all over Europe, and it ends at Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It was hard. It was walking. We didn't carry all our camping gear, though. We stayed in dormitory-like housing along the way. It's a well-established trail, and it's become very popular since the movie. No, I can't think of it. With I hate this when this happens.
It's all part of Parkinson's.
Yeah, it is. You know what I mean. Well, anyway, this movie came out and it showed a famous actor and his son, Emilio Estevez. His father is
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen. Okay, so Martin Sheen and his son. I'm not going to tell that part. But anyway, he ends up walking on the Camino, and he meets up with these people, and so it became wildly popular for people to go from the United States to go to the Camino, and now it's just kind of taken off. But it's been there for 1,200 years. These paths, these pilgrimage paths. So it was an amazing experience. The walking is really so regenerating, I guess, because you have time to think and you have time to talk to the people next to you. We're walking. It was just amazing. And I would so love to go back there again, but I think 4 times was enough.
That's
So,
a lot. And you had Parkinson's when you did it.
Yeah, I did.
all right, so the geek in me looked it up. It's called The Way.
Yes, that's right. Something so easy.
2010 action comedy, The Way.
The way.
That's right there what drives my wife crazy is I'm a consumer of information. I just love to learn information. And she goes, "Will you put your damn phone away?" I'm like, "But I need to look up information."
Yeah, I
But, you
know
know,
our son-in-laws do that too. They want to fact check with us everything.
well, I try to tell them it's not so much fact checking as I just want more information on the subject.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I saw that look, Greg, and I heard that, Joe. Disbelief in that. Maybe there's some truth to that. But one of the things you said about the self-discoveries, I noticed when I first started doing the podcast, I'm always like this,
Mhm.
and my face was like grimace. I was just like tightening up my face, and I didn't realize I was doing it. So
It
my wife
freezes on
mentioned
the
it.
computer.
I went back and looked at some of my podcasts, and sure enough, I'm just like this stoic thing. That's
Not a
that's
good,
that's the
not a
worst thing
welcome
about
look.
looking at yourself.
not a welcome look to the people watching your podcast.
Or our grandkids. I think about my grandkids and I think, does my face look like I'm mad at them? Because I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So it takes a concerted effort to get rid of that mask.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
does.
Hmm.
Well, anybody else want to throw anything in about the book journey? Because we try to keep it about an hour. We're just under an hour right now.
One thing I really enjoyed was narrating my book. And so it's available out there that you can listen to it on audio.
Oh, wonderful.
Nice.
And it came about it as an interesting way. The gal that was helping me edit called me up about 2 years after I published the book, and she said, "Would you be interested in doing a recording for audio?" And I said, "Well, I can't. I have Parkinson's. I can't even read a paragraph without losing my breath or losing my voice." And she goes, "Well, I'm going out on leave for 3 months, and when I come back, I want to listen to you read." So I hit it. I worked really, really hard on my speech. And it's a lot better now than it was then, that's for sure. But I work on it every day to keep it pretty good. I think I have more language skills than speech skills problems. But anyway, she called me at the prescribed time. She said, "Open up to a page and read." And I read, and she goes, "Okay, Audible will accept that. Let's go." She booked me in a studio. It was right at the beginning of COVID. And I lived in my van in Portland, and I hired a lady to drive me back and forth to the studio. And in 11 days, I had the book recorded and corrected and ready to go.
Wow, that's amazing.
So how long did you read every day when you were actually recording?
About an hour and a half, maybe sometimes 2 hours. Yeah,
That's
and then I didn't talk
a
the
hell
rest
of a
of the day.
workout.
Yeah, I didn't talk the rest of the day. And I can hear, as I listen to it, I can hear where I recorded one day and went back and corrected it on another day because I had to learn to match my voice perfectly. So sometimes I had a little lisp or sometimes I had a little hoarseness, and I had to be able to match it so it would not show that it was a fix of something.
On a completely unrelated topic, Patty, are you okay? Are the wildfires close, or are you?
Oh, they're not close at all. They're
Okay.
down in the Front Range, like Fort Collins, Lakewood, Ken Carroll, that
Mhm.
area. They're not close at all, but we're getting all the smoke.
You're getting the smoke, yeah.
Well, we were getting smoke even from Canada and California before these fires, but these fires are kind of scary. Not for us necessarily, but
Yeah. Because I was talking to Dave Santoni this morning, and they were saying I guess the year where they are is very unhealthy.
Mhm.
And Wayne Gilbert was saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I have a parochial interest in it because my niece lives in Castle Rock, and my great niece, who is 2 months pregnant with her second, lives in Loveland. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
know there's a fire near Loveland.
Loveland's pretty close to what's going on for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using the Loveland Lake for their slurry bombers,
Mhm.
all that stuff. Horseshoe Reservoir. I remember that.
I mean, I know it had nothing to do with the podcast, but I just was, trying to get different information about it because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's our fearless
I
leader?
need to run here.
Yeah,
I've
well,
got a
yeah.
appointment.
See you, Greg.
My
Good to see you,
daughter.
Greg.
See ya.
All right, somebody at the door.
Tom, I've got to run. I've got an appointment with my
Taylor,
daughter.
thanks for coming on board.
All right, you got it. Thank
Nice
you.
phone.
Bye-bye.
You know, too. See you, Tom. See ya.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good time to say thanks for in the words of Carol Net, I'm so glad we had this time together.
It's 1 o'clock.
I'm sorry that my computer does that on the hour.
Oh, is that your computer talking? Okay, I heard that earlier. I wasn't sure what the
I
noise
know,
was.
it's obnoxious. I hate that.
Oh.
Anyway, Carol, give me a call sometime. I'd love to talk to you.
Okay, we'll do. Take
Good.
care, you
Thanks,
guys.
everybody. Have a great day.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.